You know, it's always motivating anytime we're playing a game. Period. You know, we know what we have to do. You know, this game means a lot for our city. You know, this is going to be the determining factor whether we get a bowl eligible. You know, we just got to go and put up a complete package together and try to get away with the victory because it's well needed.
How difficult is Wake Forest to prepare for? I mean, it seems like they're throwing a lot of different things out there, even week to week, that are different than what they put out there before.
You know, they are all over team. You know, we're going to have to break them down real carefully. You know, Coach still has a great plan coming into this week. You know, we just got a game plan and work through the process of, you know, getting better this week and hopefully put it together on Saturday.
It's a big week for in-game adjustments as well. If they're throwing something different at you, you're going to have to prepare to adjust on the fly, really? Or?
You know, if they're throwing things that we hadn't seen, you know, Coach Steele is great about that. You know, he'll come off and ask us, well, what are we seeing different? What do we think will work? What do we think not's working? You know, we'll just tell him, you know, we should do this in certain situations. We should do this in certain situations. You know, and he'll draw it up and we'll get it adjusted on the sideline.
What did you tell your teammates yesterday?
Basically, you know, we all had a talk. You know, it was a little move. You know, everybody was down, but you know, we had to go back to work. You know, that was a tough loss for us. You know, it was very emotional for a lot of the players, especially the seniors. You know, you know, this is where the leadership got to step up. You know, be big leaders. You know, we can't give up. We got 2 more games left. You know, we got to go back to work Saturday versus Wake. You know, I basically told them that if they wanted to tank it in for the rest of the year, you know, they'll need to show up. You know, we got to come back ready to work, and we're going to finish the season strong.
How hard did you take it personally, the loss?
I took it very personally because, you know, that was one of the, you know, I didn't get a chance to play in the game last year, you know, and my first year down there wasn't pretty, so I thought this year, you know, being that this game could actually maybe put us in the championship, you know, I thought it was a very big game for us. You know, I took it very personally, you know, but I take all our losses personally because, you know, I'm a competitor and I like to win.
Is it a bittersweet season for you right now, given the kind of production you've had individually and given the lack of success perhaps with the team?
You know, it's always bittersweet. You know, I see the production and the capabilities that we have on both sides of the ball, but, you know, the scoreboard's not showing it. But, you know, it's all about the maturing process. You know, the process is long, but, you know, we're going to get it together sooner than later. You know, we just weren't able to put out some of the key elements and get away with a road victory, and I think that's one of the main things that's hurt us this year, not being able to finish on the road.
You said after the game that it hurt, you know, maybe as much as the Georgia Tech loss last year. Now that you've had a couple of days to think about it, is that the same feeling or does it hurt worse?
It definitely still hurts just as much. You know, not being able to go to the ACC championship, you know, which is one of our biggest, you know, goals for the year, is, you know, the realization that it's not there no more. It hurts, you know. But last year playing for the championship, you know, it was in our own hands. Now there's absolutely nothing we can do about it anymore. You know, we just got to sit back and finish the season strong.
Have you decided yet, next week's obviously the final home game, whether you're going to do the senior thing like Kyle, or have you decided yet what you're going to do next week?
I definitely haven't decided. You know, as far as right now, as far as I know, I'll be here in Clemson next semester. You know, after the season, after the bowl game and all that, you know, me and my family will sit down and talk about my future and what I think I need to do for the family. You know, just pray about it and we'll see what happens.
How does the season impact that decision? Does it make you want to come back more and get to that championship, or does the frustration lead you maybe to want to go ahead and move on?
You know, I definitely want to end the season on a good note. You know, being a champion would be the best thing and the best way to go out in my senior year. But, you know, it's never frustrating, you know, when you're doing something that you love. You know, I love football and I love my teammates. You know, but we're going to worry about finishing this season strong and then get back on the right path and swinging some momentum for our next year.